How do you usually get around? And how much traveling around do you do every day? Do you drive to work or school, or is it just a few stops if you catch the bus? Some words and phrases are really common when we talk about transport, and it's likely that you've seen some of these before. Phrases like, I'll catch the bus, or he got the train, or she went by car. But let's see some other options, starting with a very common one, the verb drive. For example, yesterday I had to drive to work because I overslept, but I usually go by bus. Or, I drive my daughter to school every day. And we drive vehicles like a car, a lorry, a bus, a train, a coach, or a van. And when you need someone to drive you somewhere, as a favor, a free journey in someone else's vehicle, you may say, give me a lift. For example, can you give me a lift to town? Or maybe you are offering to take someone somewhere. Can I give you a lift to town? Do you need a lift home? When we're on holiday, we might decide to pay to use a car for a short period. So we might hire a car. For example, we hired a car for a week when we went to Spain. Or perhaps you might prefer to hire a car with a driver, so you might get or take a taxi or an Uber. For example, we took an Uber to the airport. Or we got a taxi back from the pub last night. And when you or someone else is about to leave a place and you offer to arrange the transport, you might say, shall I order an Uber or a taxi? For example, it's getting late. Shall I order an Uber? And when we travel by aeroplane, we may use the verb fly. For example, James is a great pilot. He flies to Japan every week. Or, we took a train to Paris and flew to Spain from there. And if it's a boat, then we may use the verb sail. For example, the captain explained how hard it is to sail the ship on these waters. Or, we sailed to Barbados last year. And we can use other verbs such as walk or cycle. For example, I don't have a car, so I either cycle or walk most places. Now, if you have a motorbike or a bicycle, then you may use the verb ride. For example, I learned to ride a bike when I was 6, or when it's not raining, I ride my motorbike to work. And you can also use the verb ride with a bus or train. For example, he doesn't have a car, so he rides to work on the bus. Public transport is the most economical way to travel around the city. So here are a couple of words to describe it. Convenient, which means easy to use, or reliable, which means you can trust them. For example, where I live, buses are not very convenient. The nearest bus stop is half a mile away, but at least they are reliable. They run every 10 minutes most of the day. And sometimes you might have to wait in a queue, which means stand in line and wait for your turn. Or perhaps complain about something, which means you're not very happy with the service and you say that something's wrong. For example, people are always complaining about the bus service. But where I live, it's quite good, and there's a bus stop just round the corner. Very convenient. I often have to wait in a queue for 20 minutes to get the bus, and then 3 come along at the same time. A railway system in which electric trains travel through tunnels below ground is called the underground, or the tube, or the subway. For example, a guy gave me his seat on the tube this morning. That was quite decent of him. Or, he crossed London by underground. Or, I take the subway to work. When we travel longer distances by train or aeroplane, it's common to arrange things in advance, so we may use the verb book, a seat, a flight, a ticket. For example, we're traveling by train this time. We booked our seats 2 weeks ago. And you may opt to buy a one-way ticket or single ticket, which is a one-journey ticket, or a return ticket, which is a ticket for a journey to a place and back, or a season ticket, which is a ticket that you can use many times within a limited period, and it's usually cheaper. For example, I usually get the train to work. Trains are expensive. A return to London is £40, but I've got a season ticket and that makes it cheaper. The price we pay to travel on a bus, train, plane is called fare. For example, when the bus fares went up last month, my dad started cycling to work. Or, if there are more flights, airfares should be cheaper. When we enter and leave a public service vehicle, we usually use the phrasal verbs get on when we enter and get off when we leave. For example, sorry I'm late. I got off the bus at the wrong stop and then I walked the rest of the way. Or, the tube was packed this morning. It was difficult to get on. But for private transport, like cars, we use get in when we enter and get out when we leave. For example, I got out of the taxi and almost walked away without paying the fare. And if you're not there in time to catch a ride, then use the verb miss. A flight, a bus, a train. For example, I was late to work this morning because I missed the bus. Or, we missed our flight to Paris and it cost us a fortune to rebook it. Hopefully you've learned some new words and phrases here to talk about transport in English, but try to use these expressions in your real life, because that's how you're really going to learn. And I'll see you in the next class. See you later.